What would you do if an 8-year-old girl knew your city's streets better than professional GPS systems and police dispatch computers? Sofia Ramirez spent every day riding with her Uber driver father Carlos through Austin's complex traffic patterns, memorizing shortcuts and timing that even navigation apps couldn't calculate. When billionaire CEO Marcus Sterling's son was kidnapped, Sofia's extraordinary spatial memory would prove that sometimes the most advanced technology is a child's mind. Before we get to this wonderful story, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Now, let's get back to the story. The morning rush hour in Austin painted the highways in ribbons of red brake lights as Carlos Ramirez navigated his 2015 Toyota Camry through the city's notorious traffic patterns. In the passenger seat, 8-year-old Sofia sat with a worn tablet propped on her lap, her dark eyes moving between the screen and the road ahead with the focused intensity of someone far older than her years. "Daddy, take the Riverside exit instead," Sofia said without looking up from her tablet, which displayed a real-time traffic map that most adults found confusing. "There's an accident at the Ben White merge, and it's backing up traffic all the way to Oltorf." Carlos glanced at his GPS, which still showed the original route as optimal. He'd learned long ago to trust his daughter's instincts over technology. Sofia had been his constant companion since she was 4 years old, riding along during his Uber shifts because daycare was too expensive, and his wife Maria worked double shifts as a certified nursing assistant at Del Seaton Medical Center. What had started as economic necessity had evolved into something extraordinary. Sofia didn't just ride along, she studied Austin's traffic patterns with the dedication of a transportation engineer. She knew which streets flooded during thunderstorms, which intersections experienced delays during University of Texas events, and which construction projects would affect traffic flow weeks before they appeared on navigation apps. "How do you know about the accident?" Carlos asked, taking the exit Sofia had suggested. "It just happened 10 minutes ago." "Because I saw 3 ambulances heading that way earlier," Sofia replied matter-of-factly. "And the traffic helicopters are circling that area. Plus, when there's an accident at Ben White, people always try to use Oltorf as an alternate, which creates a backup all the way to I-35. Carlos smiled with paternal pride. His daughter's mind worked in ways that amazed him daily. While other 8-year-olds were absorbed in cartoons or video games, Sofia found endless fascination in the complex choreography of urban traffic flow. She could predict congestion patterns, identify optimal routes, and calculate travel times with accuracy that surpassed professional dispatchers. "Mija, you should work for the city planning department when you grow up," Carlos said, navigating smoothly through the lighter traffic on Sofia's suggested route. "I want to help people get where they need to go faster," Sofia replied seriously. "Like you do, Daddy, but maybe with computers that are smarter than the ones they have now." The ride request notification chimed on Carlos's phone just as they merged onto Mopac Expressway. The pickup location showed a prestigious address in Westlake Hills, Austin's wealthiest neighborhood, where mansions overlooked Lake Austin and the city's tech billionaires resided in homes worth more than most people earned in lifetimes. "Big pickup in Westlake," Carlos announced, accepting the ride request. "Probably another business executive heading downtown." Sofia studied the pickup address on the app, cross-referencing it with her mental database of Austin's notable residents. "Daddy, that's Marcus Sterling's house," she said quietly. "He's the CEO of Sterling Tech. They make GPS software that competes with Google Maps." Carlos raised an eyebrow. His daughter's knowledge of Austin's business community never ceased to surprise him. Sofia read business magazines during slow periods, fascinated by stories of entrepreneurs who had built successful companies from nothing. Her favorite articles were about immigrants and working-class families who had achieved financial success through innovation and determination. "How do you know where Marcus Sterling lives?" Carlos asked. "I read about him in Austin Business Journal," Sofia replied. "His company just got a big contract with the Department of Transportation to improve highway navigation systems. He grew up poor like us, but he learned computer programming in community college and built Sterling Tech in his garage." The drive to Westlake Hills took them through some of Austin's most dramatic landscape transitions, from the flat expanses of central Austin to the rolling hills and limestone cliffs that gave the area its name. Sofia studied each neighborhood they passed, noting new construction projects and changes in traffic patterns that might affect future route planning. Marcus Sterling's estate occupied 3 acres of prime hill country real estate, with a circular driveway leading to a modern mansion that seemed to emerge from the limestone cliffs like a natural formation. The house was a monument to technology-driven success, all clean lines and glass walls that offered panoramic views of Austin's skyline. "Remember what Mama says about rich people," Carlos reminded Sofia as they pulled into the circular driveway. "Money doesn't make someone better than us, it just makes them different." "I know, Daddy," Sofia replied, studying the impressive home with curious rather than envious eyes. "But it would be nice to have a house where you could see the whole city." Marcus Sterling emerged from his front door with the brisk efficiency of someone accustomed to running every minute of his day on a precise schedule. At 42, he had the lean build and focused energy of a former athlete, his graying hair styled in a way that suggested expensive professional attention. His tailored suit probably cost more than Carlos earned in a month, but his expression carried the stress of someone carrying enormous responsibilities. "Sterling Tech downtown, please," Marcus said as he slid into the back seat, his attention immediately absorbed by urgent emails on his phone. "I need to be there in 30 minutes for a board meeting." Carlos nodded respectfully, programming the destination into his GPS while Sofia studied their passenger in the rearview mirror. She had read enough about Marcus Sterling to know that he was generally considered a demanding but fair employer, someone who had built his company's reputation on technical excellence and innovation. "Mr. Sterling," Sofia said politely, turning partially around in her seat, "we should take Lamar Boulevard instead of Mopac. There's construction at the Barton Springs Road interchange that's causing delays." Marcus looked up from his phone with mild irritation. "Driver, please just follow the GPS. I use Sterling Tech's navigation system, which has real-time traffic updates and optimal routing algorithms." Carlos glanced at Sofia, recognizing the slight disappointment in her eyes. His daughter's route suggestions were invariably correct, but passengers often preferred to trust technology over the insights of an 8-year-old girl. "Of course, sir," Carlos replied diplomatically. "GPS route it is." As they merged onto Mopac and immediately encountered the construction-related slowdown that Sofia had predicted, Marcus's phone rang with an urgency that filled the car with tension. His assistant's panicked voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "Mr. Sterling, you need to return home immediately. There's been an emergency with Tommy." The color drained from Marcus's face. Tommy Sterling, his 6-year-old son, was the center of Marcus's universe, the only family he had left since his wife Carolyn had died in a car accident 2 years earlier. The boy attended Austin's most exclusive private school, where security was supposed to be absolute and every precaution was taken to protect the children of high-profile families. "What kind of emergency?" Marcus demanded, his voice tight with fear. "Tommy was taken from the school playground during morning recess," his assistant replied, her words barely audible through her tears. "Someone called the school claiming to be your driver, saying you had sent them to pick up Tommy for a dental appointment. By the time the school realized it wasn't authorized, Tommy was gone." Marcus's world tilted on its axis. His son, his brilliant, curious, loving little boy, had been kidnapped by someone sophisticated enough to know Tommy's schedule and clever enough to exploit the school's security protocols. "Have you called the police?" Marcus asked, his business executive training helping him stay functional despite his terror. "The kidnapper called your direct line 5 minutes after Tommy disappeared," his assistant continued. "They're demanding $50 million in untraceable cryptocurrency. They said if any law enforcement agencies are involved, they'll kill Tommy immediately." Sofia had been listening to the conversation with growing horror. The mention of a kidnapped 6-year-old triggered every protective instinct her father had taught her about family and helping others in crisis. She turned around in her seat to look directly at Marcus, her young face serious with concern. "Mr. Sterling," she said quietly, "someone took your little boy?" Marcus looked at Sofia as if seeing her for the first time. The 8-year-old girl in the front seat was no longer just the driver's daughter. She was another child, someone who might understand his desperation in ways that adults couldn't. "Yes," Marcus replied, his voice breaking slightly. "Someone took my son from his school, and I don't know where he is." "Turn around!" Marcus commanded Carlos, his voice shaking with barely controlled panic. "Get me home now. I need to coordinate the search and arrange the ransom payment." Carlos immediately executed a U-turn, while Marcus frantically called his security team and private investigators. But as they headed back toward Westlake Hills, they encountered another traffic jam, this time caused by an overturned 18-wheeler that had shut down 2 lanes of Mopac near the Lake Austin Bridge. "This is taking too long," Marcus said desperately, watching precious minutes tick by on his phone. "Every minute we waste sitting in traffic is another minute my son is in danger." Sofia had been thinking about the kidnapping with the analytical mind that her father had always encouraged her to develop. Something about the timing and methodology troubled her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the standard approach to finding Tommy might be missing something important. "Mr. Sterling," she said, turning around in her seat again. "If someone took your son from school this morning, they probably didn't stay in Austin. Kidnappers usually want to get far away from where they committed the crime." Marcus stared at the 8-year-old girl with surprise. "What do you know about kidnapping?" "I watch a lot of crime shows with my mom," Sofia replied seriously. "And I've been studying Austin's roads for 4 years. If someone wanted to take a kid and get away quickly without being seen, there are only certain routes they could use." Carlos shot his daughter a warning look, concerned about her getting involved in such a dangerous situation. But Marcus's desperation overrode his usual tendency to dismiss insights from children. "What routes?" he asked, leaning forward with intense focus. Sofia pulled out her tablet and brought up a detailed map of Austin and the surrounding area. With quick, precise finger movements, she began highlighting pathways that avoided major highways and traffic camera installations. "See, if they want to avoid being tracked, they can't use I-35, Highway 183, or Mopac because those have lots of traffic cameras and police patrol frequently," Sofia explained, her young voice carrying unexpected authority. "Highway 290 West has cameras too, but not as many. The really smart choice would be these back roads." She traced a complex network of rural routes that connected Austin's suburbs to the hill country and farmland beyond. The pathways she outlined would indeed be nearly invisible to standard law enforcement surveillance methods. "But Mr. Sterling," Sofia continued, her brow furrowed with concentration, "if they took Tommy at recess time and called you right after, they couldn't have gotten very far yet. These back roads are slow, and there's only 3 directions they could go that make sense." Marcus studied Sofia's route analysis with growing amazement. The 8-year-old was demonstrating spatial intelligence and strategic thinking that rivaled his company's best navigation algorithms. "How do you know about traffic camera locations and police patrol patterns?" Marcus asked. "Because I ride with Daddy every day and I pay attention," Sofia replied matter-of-factly. "I see where the police cars like to park, where the cameras are mounted, and which roads have the most people watching. It's like figuring out a puzzle, and I'm really good at puzzles." Marcus immediately called his security chief. "Forget searching the highways," he instructed. "I'm sending you alternate route maps that avoid traffic cameras and high patrol areas. Focus your search on rural road networks leading west, north, and south of Austin." While Marcus coordinated the expanded search strategy, Sofia continued studying her tablet with the intense concentration that had always impressed her father. Something about the kidnapping timeline was bothering her, but she needed more information to understand what felt wrong. "Mr. Sterling," she said finally, "can I ask you some questions about your son?" "Of course," Marcus replied, recognizing that Sofia's analytical approach had already provided more useful insights than his security team's conventional methods. "Does Tommy look like you?" Sofia asked. "Like, would someone who saw you both together know immediately that you're related?" "Very much," Marcus confirmed. "Tommy has my blue eyes and Caroline's blonde hair, but people always say we have the same facial structure and expressions." "And does he go to the same school every day at the same time?" Sofia continued. "Yes, I drop him off at 7:30 every morning on my way to work," Marcus replied. "It's been our routine since Caroline died." "Why are you asking?" Sofia's young face grew troubled as she processed this information. "Because taking someone's kid isn't just about money," she said with the straightforward logic that only children possess. "If bad guys just wanted money, they'd kidnap any rich person. But they picked your son specifically, at his school, during recess when they knew he'd be outside." The observation hit Marcus like a physical blow. Sophie was absolutely right. The kidnapping had been too precisely planned and too personally targeted to be a random crime. Someone with detailed knowledge of his family's routines had orchestrated this abduction. That means it's probably someone who knows you, Sophia continued, her analytical mind working through the implications. Someone who's seen you with Tommy and knows what your schedule looks like. Marcus felt a chill of recognition. In the past 6 months, Sterling Tech had laid off several employees due to budget constraints and corporate restructuring. One of those employees, David Chen, had been particularly bitter about his termination, sending angry emails and making veiled threats about Marcus paying for his mistakes. "Sophia," Marcus said, his voice filled with newfound urgency, "you might be right about this being personal. There's someone who might want to hurt me specifically." Before Sophia could respond, Marcus's phone buzzed with an update from his security team. They had identified tire tracks and signs of recent activity at an abandoned warehouse complex near Dripping Springs, one of the areas Sophia had identified as a likely hiding spot for kidnappers using backroad routes. "Mr. Sterling," the security chief reported, "we found evidence of vehicle activity at the old Dripping Springs Industrial Park. It matches the timeline and location parameters your consultant provided." Marcus looked at Sophia with tears forming in his eyes. "My consultant is 8 years old and knows Austin better than any navigation system we've ever developed." 25 minutes later, Marcus received the call he had been praying for. Tommy Sterling had been found safe at the Dripping Springs location, exactly where Sophia's analysis had predicted. The kidnapper turned out to be David Chen, the disgruntled former Sterling Tech employee who had been arrested without incident when police surrounded the warehouse. "Mr. Sterling," the security chief reported, "if we had continued searching highways and major routes, we never would have found them in time. The route analysis and location predictions from your young consultant were absolutely critical to the rescue operation." As they drove toward the warehouse where Tommy was being reunited with his father, Sophia sat quietly in the front seat, processing what had just happened. Her love of maps and traffic patterns had somehow contributed to saving a little boy's life, and she felt a strange mixture of pride and responsibility that she didn't fully understand. "Sophia," Marcus said from the back seat, his voice thick with emotion, "I can never thank you enough for what you did today. You saved my son's life." "I just like figuring out how roads connect," Sophia replied with characteristic modesty. "And I know that when someone's family is in trouble, you have to help if you can." The reunion between Marcus and Tommy Sterling took place in the parking lot of the Dripping Springs warehouse, surrounded by police cars and emergency vehicles. 6-year-old Tommy ran into his father's arms with the boundless energy of a child who hadn't fully understood the danger he'd been in, chattering excitedly about the adventure he'd experienced. "Daddy, the man said he was taking me to see you, but then we went to this weird place with no windows," Tommy explained as Marcus held him tightly. "I wasn't scared, though, because I knew you'd find me." Marcus looked over his son's head at Sophia, who was watching the reunion with quiet satisfaction. The 8-year-old girl had demonstrated analytical abilities that had surpassed his company's most sophisticated systems, but more importantly, she had shown compassion and determination that had motivated her to use those abilities when it mattered most. "Tommy," Marcus said, kneeling to his son's level, "I want you to meet someone very special. This is Sophia, and she helped me find you." Tommy looked at Sophia with the open curiosity of one child meeting another. "Are you the one who's really good at maps?" "I just like studying roads," Sophia replied shyly. "I'm glad you're okay." "Do you want to see my Pokemon cards?" Tommy asked, producing a small collection from his pocket. "The bad man let me keep them." As the two children examined Pokemon cards while their fathers dealt with police reports and legal procedures, Marcus found himself observing Sophia with newfound understanding. This wasn't just an unusually bright child. This was someone with genuine intellectual gifts that had been nurtured by necessity and family love into something extraordinary. "Carlos," Marcus said, approaching Sophia's father, "I'd like to discuss something important with you." "Of course, Mr. Sterling," Carlos replied, still processing the surreal events of the morning. Your daughter has abilities that could revolutionize navigation technology, Marcus continued. I'd like to offer her a position as a consultant with Sterling Tech, part-time of course, and structured around her education. But Sofia sees patterns and connections that our best engineers miss. Carlos looked at his daughter, who was now teaching Tommy about traffic flow patterns using Pokemon cards as visual aids. Sofia has always been special, he said proudly. But we never imagined her interests could lead to something like this. Intelligence and talent can emerge anywhere, Marcus replied, thinking about his own journey from a working-class background to technology industry success. What matters is recognizing it and providing opportunities for it to grow. 6 months later, Sofia Ramirez had become something of a legend in Austin's technology community. The 8-year-old who had helped rescue Tommy Sterling was now working with Sterling Tech's development team to create navigation algorithms that incorporated real-world traffic psychology and spatial analysis that traditional GPS systems couldn't match. But Sofia's involvement with Sterling Tech went beyond technical consulting. Marcus had recognized that her insights into human behavior and community dynamics were as valuable as her spatial intelligence. She helped the company understand how different demographic groups used navigation technology and how improved systems could benefit working families like her own. Sofia's approach to problem-solving is completely different from traditional engineering methods, explained Dr. Lisa Wang, Sterling Tech's head of algorithm development, during a conference presentation about the company's breakthrough navigation improvements. She doesn't just think about optimal routes, she thinks about why people need to get places, what obstacles they face, and how technology can remove barriers rather than just provide information. The Ramirez family's circumstances had transformed dramatically as well. Carlos no longer drove for Uber full-time, instead working as Sterling Tech's director of real-world navigation testing. His years of experience with Austin's traffic patterns, combined with Sofia's analytical insights, had proven invaluable in developing navigation systems that worked for actual drivers rather than just theoretical models. It's strange how life changes, Maria Ramirez told her husband as they watched Sofia work on a complex routing algorithm in their new home office. The family had moved from their cramped apartment to a comfortable house in a good school district where Sofia could pursue her passion for spatial analysis while attending a school that recognized and nurtured her gifts. She's still the same girl who loves riding around Austin and figuring out the fastest routes, Carlos replied with a smile. She just has better tools now to explore what she loves. But perhaps the most significant change was in Marcus Sterling himself. The billionaire CEO who had once dismissed his Uber driver's daughter as irrelevant had learned that extraordinary intelligence could emerge from any background, and that the most valuable insights often came from people who approached problems from unexpected angles. Marcus kept a framed photo on his office desk, not of a business achievement or technology breakthrough, but of Sofia and Tommy Sterling working together on a traffic flow simulation, both children completely absorbed in the complex puzzle of urban transportation planning. They're designing a navigation system for families with young children, Marcus explained to visitors who asked about the photo. Sofia thinks that current GPS systems don't account for the different needs that parents have when driving with kids. Things like avoiding construction zones with loud noises, finding routes with convenient rest stops, and calculating travel times that include child-related delays. The project was typical of Sofia's approach to technology. She didn't just want to make navigation faster or more efficient, she wanted to make it more humane and responsive to real family needs. Sofia continued riding with her father on weekends, not because she had to anymore, but because she loved discovering new patterns in Austin's constantly evolving traffic landscape. Her spatial intelligence had transformed from a survival skill developed out of economic necessity into a gift that was reshaping how technology companies thought about navigation and urban planning. "Daddy, look at this," Sofia said during one of their weekend drives, pointing to her tablet which displayed a real-time analysis of traffic flow during a University of Texas football game. The city could reduce congestion by 30% if they adjusted traffic light timing around the stadium and opened alternate parking areas that most people don't know about. Carlos smiled, recognizing the same analytical passion that had led to Sofia's breakthrough insights about finding Tommy Sterling. His daughter's mind worked in ways that continued to amaze him, but what made him proudest was how she consistently used her abilities to help others. Marcus Sterling often reflected on the morning when a routine Uber ride had transformed into a life-changing encounter with unexpected genius. The kidnapping of his son had been the worst experience of his life, but it had also introduced him to Sofia Ramirez, a remarkable child whose intelligence, compassion, and determination had not only saved Tommy's life, but had revolutionized Marcus's understanding of where extraordinary capabilities could be found. The collaboration between Sterling Tech and the Ramirez family had become a model for how technology companies could identify and nurture unconventional talent. Sofia's story had inspired other businesses to look beyond traditional credentials and recognize that innovation often came from people who approached problems with fresh perspectives and different life experiences. But for Sofia herself, the most important outcome wasn't the recognition or opportunities she'd received. It was the knowledge that her love of maps and traffic patterns, the interests that had developed during countless hours riding in her father's Uber, could be used to help people and solve real problems that mattered. Every time Sofia worked on a new navigation algorithm or analyzed a traffic flow problem, she remembered the fear in Marcus Sterling's voice when he thought his son was lost forever. That memory motivated her to ensure that her work would help other families stay safe, find each other quickly, and navigate the world with confidence. The Uber driver's daughter, who had once been invisible in the front seat, had proven that extraordinary intelligence could emerge from any background, and that sometimes the most sophisticated technology was simply a child's mind applied to problems that adults had stopped seeing clearly. Sofia's spatial genius had saved Tommy Sterling's life, but her greater gift was showing an entire industry that innovation and insight could come from the most unexpected places, like the passenger seat of a working father's car, where a young girl's love of learning had flourished into something that could change the world. Thank you very much for listening. Please let us know what you think of this story in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any other videos.